Welcome to Story Cat. Today I'm going to tell you a story that will definitely surprise you. Before we begin, don't forget to hit like and leave a comment with your thoughts. My elder sister left behind 2 young children and then departed this world. Mother came to me, begging that I wed my brother-in-law in her stead. I did not beat around the bush. I said at once, my nephew is precious. If he misbehaves, may I strike him? Mother nodded again and again, of course you may. And my niece, she is delicate. If she errs, may I scold her? No problem. At last I asked, and what of my brother-in-law? I've long found him disagreeable. May I thrash him? Mother wiped the sweat from her brow, that you must ask your mother-in-law. After all, he was not born of me. Since my elder sister passed away, Mother has been weighed down day and night, sleepless, food tasteless. Each time I saw her with those dark circles beneath her eyes, lips half-parted as though words lingered unsaid, my heart grew most vexed. Through the years, my sister was the cherished child who grew up under father and mother's tender gaze. I, instead, was raised in Jiayu Pass by my maternal grandparents. Mother had always owed me, yet upon my return home, instead of finding me a worthy marriage, she schemed to send me to wed my brother-in-law. Fortunately, she and father still had some scruple, and dared not speak of it outright, only sighing before me day after day. Resentful, I had half a mind to write to grandfather, take men and horses, and return to Jiayu Pass. Surely, they would have little to say against it. Yet one day, I chanced to glimpse the silver in mother's hair, the pallor of her face, and father's increasingly stooped figure. My heart softened in spite of myself. Enough, I thought. Let this be the repayment of the debt I owe them for giving me life. So I went straight to mother and said plainly, I will marry into the Jinyang Marquisate. But all things there must be done according to my will. Mother, overcome, covered her face with her hands and wept, my daughter knew you still had us in your heart. I answered coolly, stop there. Let us speak the ugly words first, lest we quarrel later. Mother awkwardly wiped her tears and said, you have every virtue, but this temper of yours is far too much like your grandfather's. She quickly added, you willing to marry into the Marquisate, anything could be better. You know how busy your brother-in-law is with official duty, with no time to look after the children. Yun is but 6 years old. Without a mother's teaching, how will she ever find a good husband in time? And little Yu is only 3. How will he grow up well? Should they fall into the hands of a stepmother? Your sister, in the netherworld, would never rest in peace. Again, tears welled in her eyes. I sighed, my head aching. My sister, her fate had indeed been bitter. Gentle, beautiful, virtuous, though our days together were few, she had always treated me with kindness. My brother-in-law, Zhao Yuhua, is heir to the Jinyang Marquisate. Handsome of face, gifted in both letters and arms, now serving as vice minister in the Ministry of Justice. Their marriage was the envy of all, well matched, blessed with 2 lovely children. Yet my sister, frail of health, was struck down by a mere chill at the year's beginning and never rose again. Now, his mourning period is over, and the Marquisate has sent word, desiring to continue ties with our Yu family. Mother, knowing me well, at first opposed the idea where I was raised free, unwilling to live bound in a high gates cage. But her heart was bound to my sister's children. The Marquisate's household is tangled and vast. The old Marchioness is unwell, the household is managed by Second Lady Li, sharp-tongued and domineering, with a son 2 years elder than little Yu. She delights in outshining others. My sister's children are left shut away in their own courtyard, tended only by nurses, growing ever more timid and petty. Should a stepmother enter the gates, their lives would only worsen. Turning it over and over in my mind, I could not set aside my worry. In truth, it was but 10 years of my life. By then, Yun would be of marriageable age, and Yu grown to manhood. At 26, I could return to Jiayu Pass. Thus resolved, I said to mother, since this charge is laid upon me, then I must act as a mother. You are as precious if he errs, may I strike him? Mother nodded eagerly, of course. If you did not, if you only spoiled him, I would be the one to worry. That is well enough. And Yun? May I scold her? No problem. Mother was at least clear-minded. Then what of brother-in-law? I've long disliked him. May I strike him? Mother wiped the sweat from her brow. That, you must ask your mother-in-law. After all, he is not mine by birth. At last, I said solemnly, Motherder, you trust me? Mother gazed deeply at me. You are my child, but more than that, your grandfather raised you. Wise and brave, righteous to the bone. If I cannot trust you, there is no one left I can trust. That was enough. So it was that I, bringing with me men from Jiayu Pass and a grand dowry, married into the Jinyang Marquisate. Never had a second wife entered with such wealth and pomp. The household quickly discerned my standing in my natal family was no less than my sister's had been. On the wedding night, I had intended to speak plainly with Zhao Yuhua, that we should live as partners, raise the children, keep our waters apart. But he did not return until midnight, drunk beyond measure, half carried by servants into the bridal chamber, collapsing onto the bed. My maids looked at one another in dismay. How can the young master behave so? No nuptial wine, no consummation, it is shameful. And he is no callow youth to be so easily plied with wine. Plainly, he cares not for his second wife. I thought, perhaps he wished to avoid my quick conception, which might overshadow the children my sister left behind. Since our goals aligned, I bore him no resentment. With a wave of my hand, I had my attendants change his clothes and toss him onto the couch. By morning, he awoke to find me fully dressed, composed, with all my maids waiting. He looked surprised that I bore no trace of grievance, and offered some excuse. Last night, the Marquis of Zhongshan forced wine upon me. I cut short his pale words. Husband, it is time to go to the ancestral hall and be introduced. He saw my cool expression, eyes filled only with frost, and was stunned a moment before replying, very well. I shall prepare at once. And so he led me to the Zhao ancestral hall. Along the way, he spoke not a word. I had heard from my sister's maids, Zhao Yuhua is a man of rigor, sparing in words, never blunt, but stern in his silence. He valued restraint, and in the household carried great authority. My sister, living with him, had ever to tread lightly, to guess at his mind. A guess correct brought a measure of warmth, a guess wrong, and he would not scold, but let coldness fall until she discerned her fault. On our wedding night, his drunken act was but another test. Had I been gentle and forgiving, he would have shown me favor. But I had not. To him, I was not gentle, not yielding, hence, in his heart, not a virtuous wife. These lofty scholars have endless ways to school their women. But I had no patience to care. At the ancestral hall, I met the extended Zhao family. The Marquisate was populous. The main and second branches were of the main line, the third and fourth were cadet lines, several grandaunts had long since married out. The Dowager Marchioness appeared kindly but was pale, her health clearly failing. The second lady clever, domineering, sharp of tongue. My sister, I had heard, had always been outmatched by her. Li greeted me with the same intent, to press me down. Once all courtesies were done, my sister's two children were brought by their nurses to salute me. Yun, the elder, performed her bow with decorum. But little Yu shrank timidly, clearly cowed. Zhao Yuhua frowned, displeasure flashing in his eyes, dissatisfied with his son. The boy, terrified by a single glance from his father, shrank further still. My heart ached, my fists clenched. When the rites were finished, the Dowager Marchioness bid me gently return to my quarters and rest. I complied and took the children with me. In my courtyard, I set my attendants to arranging my dowry and the people I had brought from Jiayu Pass. Then I said to Yun and Yu, from now on, you will come here each morning to take breakfast with me. Yun, already well drilled by her nurse, replied dutifully, yes, mother. But Yu's nurse, Madame Song, said quietly, my lady, the young master is still small. He cannot rise so early. Better I bring him for supper each day? I looked at her. I had already heard, she was devoted, treating you as her own flesh and blood. That much was true. But a child raised long in the hands of a narrow-minded nurse could never survive in a great household. I said coolly, you is already 3. Not so very young. Our breakfast is not held early. With early sleep and early rising, there is no reason he cannot come. Moreover, his father is free only at breakfast. Will you have you live each day without even seeing his own father? The less he saw his father, the more he feared him. A boy cannot grow up forever clinging to nurse or mother. He needs a father's teaching and example. Madame Song faltered, yes. As my lady commands. Yun's nurse, Madame Zhai, smirked at Song's defeat. All set in order, I dismissed the children to rest. Thus the days began, quiet and orderly. Since that day I cut short Zhao Yuhua's words before all, he has offered no further explanations. He busied himself wholly with his duties, came not to my rooms at night, but instead went to his concubines, Madame Lu and Madame Su. Soon, whispers spread through the household that I was unloved by the heir. I paid them no heed. Each morning he came to take breakfast with me, preserving at least that courtesy. I knew he meant to punish me, to dampen my sharpness. But I welcomed it. I had no desire to fawn upon him. Instead, I had the small kitchen prepare food to the children's liking, attended to their well-being, and at breakfast let them grow accustomed to their father's presence. At first, Yu was so timid he dared not lift his chopsticks before his father. After a few days, he began to speak a little, I want a bun, or I'd like millet porridge. It was a beginning. ChatGPT to NOI, after that, things became less stammered. He was still young, easily guided and influenced by adults. And children are always filled with longing. No one truly hates their own father. As for me, I only acted warm and gentle when the 2 children were present. The moment they left, my face would turn cold again, and I would not spare Zhao Yuhua another glance. No matter how steady and reserved he was, even he couldn't remain unaffected by such a sharp contrast. One day, Yuner brought me a cord she had woven herself. It was still crude and clumsy, but I praised it to the heavens, so pretty. So delicate. Yuner, is this a gift for mother? Yuner blushed and said softly, I handed the cord to Zhao Yuhua and said, look at this. Isn't our Yuner so clever and skillful? She's exactly like my sister when she was little. Zhao Yuhua had grown used to the fact that I only spoke to him at such moments. He merely gave a faint I gestured for him to say more, my tone carrying a hidden threat, husband, don't you agree? He glanced at me, then finally said, Yuner did very well. Yuner was overjoyed, her clear voice ringing out, then I'll make one for father too. Ayu shouted, sister, me too. I want one too. But Yuner said nothing, retreating quietly back to her seat. I had already noticed Yuner seemed to harbor some dislike for Ayu. By all reason, the 2 of them, as full siblings who had both lost their mother, should have been all the more united and close. Why, then, was it otherwise? As I stood there and thought, the children had already been taken back. Zhao Yuhua, however, did not leave. He called out to me, wife? Huh? Why was he still here? I frowned slightly. Does husband have more to say? Zhao Yuhua did not take offense. On the contrary, he looked at me with interest. May I call you by your given name, would you, from now on? What sort of ailment had seized him? I arched a brow. Husband may call me whatever he pleases. It's only a name. Zhao Yuhua said calmly, would you, you and I are husband and wife now. There's no need for such distance. You may call me Yuhua. When I gave no reply, he added softly, in these past days since you arrived, you've handled everything very well. I've noticed. At first, I worried that after your sister's passing, the 2 children would suffer. But I never expected you to be so considerate toward them. See that? Even a dog knows to show gratitude. It can tell good from bad. I said coolly, husband is too polite. This is what I ought to do as a wife. When he realized I still would not call him by name, Zhao Yuhua gave a self-deprecating smile. Very well. The days are long. You're still young, inexperienced. I will be patient. But you must remember to not grow arrogant from favor. For a wife, gentleness, modesty, and frugality are virtues above all. Before he finished, I set down my teacup with a sharp clack. This wife has other matters. I won't keep you company further. Madman! Who has the patience to listen to all that? Even my grandfather never droned on with such fatherly airs. My mind, however, was still preoccupied with Yunar and Ayu. So I quietly made my way to Ayu's quarters. The maids told me that Songshur had taken him to the garden to play. I nodded and headed there directly. But just as I reached the garden gates, I heard the sounds of children quarreling inside. This is mine. What's yours is mine. This was a gift from my mother. What mother? Yours is dead. That's your stepmother. Fury boiled up inside me. I strode in to see second Madam Li's son, Song, quarreling with Ayu. Song was 2 years older, clearly taller, and he had just snatched away a 9-link ring from Ayu's hands before shoving him hard. Ayu's eyes brimmed with tears, his face flushed with grievance pitiful to behold. Yet Songshur and several maids seemed long accustomed to it. They merely comforted Ayu. There are other toys in the courtyard, young master. I forced down my rage, strode over, and snatched the toy back. Song, you are the elder brother. How can you bully your younger cousin? Ayu, seeing me, cried out like a child who had found his savior. Mother! Brother has stolen many of my toys, always stealing from me. Songshur hurriedly said, Madam, children always quarrel and roughhouse. It's nothing serious. I gave her a cold look, silencing her at once. Then I jabbed a finger against Song's brow. You're still young, and already you fail to behave properly. Never having been scolded before, Song burst into tears. The old nurse beside him rushed forward to shield him, grumbling, Madam, they're just children playing. How can you, as an adult, snatch toys from a child? A moment ago they had all stood by like corpses. Now they dared to speak up? I backhanded the nurse across the face. No wonder Song has turned out poorly, it's because of servants like you teaching him wickedness. The woman clutched her face, crying, You strike people? I said coldly, Song stole from Ayu, and you not only failed to stop him, you egged him on. Shouldn't you be punished? Let me be clear, Ayu may have lost his mother, but he still has me, would you? And he has our Yu family. My grandfather is General Wei Meng, defending the nation at Jiaoling Pass. If he knew his great-grandson was bullied like this, he'd have your head chopped off for the war banners. My words made the nurse and the maids blanch with terror, trembling all over. Of course they knew it was true, but they had assumed Ayu's mother's kin couldn't interfere here. After I had cowed them, Songshur stammered, Madam. Perhaps this is going too far. After all, Song is second Madam's son, and if she... I cut her off with a harsh voice, someone bullies Ayu, and instead of telling me, you teach the child to endure it? Ayu is the Zhao family's eldest legitimate grandson. Must he still suffer indignities? What sort of logic is this? A scandal is exactly what I want, let the whole household hear it. Then we'll see who dares to look down on my sister's children again. In a great household like this, if respect isn't established from the beginning, life only grows harsher. Sure enough, before night had fallen, second Madam Li had already brought a complaint to the Grand Madam. My sister-in-law has just married in, and already she strikes Song and his nurse. He's only 5 years old. Yet she frightened him into a fever. Isn't this bullying? The children were only playing together. Grand Madam, elderly and fond of family harmony, most valued peace among her descendants. She disliked troublemakers like me. When she summoned me to the main hall, all the female relatives were already seated, every one of them silent as mice. So much fuss over such a triflite was like they were staging a hangmen banquet. The Grand Madam, uncharacteristically stern, said, Eldest daughter-in-law, I want to hear your explanation. Second Madam, looking pitiful, added fuel, my sister-in-law is young and quick-tempered, that I admit. But Song is only 5. He was so frightened he grew feverish after. It's really my failure as his mother. Ah, no wonder my sister had always suffered under her hand. She twisted truth with such skill. Before I could speak, Zhao Yuhua rushed in and said to the Grand Madam, Wuju is still young. She loves the children too much and lost her composure. But before he finished, the Grand Madam shook her head in displeasure. That is no excuse for striking Song. Harmony among kin is paramount. For years, Lisher had flattered her with Song by her side. Though both were grandsons, of course the Grand Madam favored him more. Zhao Yuhua, ever filial, grew anxious at his mother's anger and urged me, would you, quickly apologize to mother. And to your sister-in-law as well. Apologize? To her? I sneered, stepping forward. Today's matter was one this daughter-in-law could not ignore. The Grand Madam frowned. What do you mean by that? Second Madam cried out, my sister-in-law has such a hard mouth. To bully a child and still act so righteous? I don't demand an apology, only that she stop terrifying my Song. We only have the one son in our branch. Even Zhao Yuhua looked displeased. Why must you be so obstinate? They were closing in on me like a pack of jackals. But was I one to be cowed? At Jiayuguan I had stood unflinching against enemies of the nation. Why should I quail before a hall of petty women? I spoke, firm and clear. Only today did I learn that Song has been bullying Ayu, an orphan boy without a mother, for over a year. Sister-in-law knew, and yet did nothing to restrain him? My poor sister, if she knew in the afterlife, how her heart would ache. I pulled out a list I had prepared, detailing all the toys and trinkets Song had taken in the past year: 9 link rings, bamboo dragonflies, rattles, glass lamps. The list filled a whole page. See for yourselves. Even this glass lamp was from my sister's dowry. You stole even that. Is this child's play? Or is your branch robbing us outright? If you wanted things, you could have asked. The Yu family can afford to give. But must you do it in such a shameful way, at the cost of the children's bond? Lisher's face changed as she took the list. These items, this is absurd. Sister-in-law, you're making things up. I sneered. Whether I am or not, we'll know by searching your quarters. All my sister's dowry items bear the Yu family's mark. If they're not there, I'll pour your tea and apologize. But if they are, then don't bother with explanations. You can eat every last one of them, and we'll call it even. My confidence struck home. Lisher's face turned pale. Small trinkets in 2s and 3s might be ignored, but dozens of items were not so easily dismissed. The tide turned at once. The Grand Madam frowned at her. Is this true? Lisher muttered, not so many. It's just children's games. Brothers often exchange toys. That's all. I laughed aloud. An exchange? Then why is there nothing from your branch among our possessions? Is that what you call an exchange? Truly laughable. Lisher's defense grew feeble, finally claiming, it must be those insolent servants around Song deceiving me. Don't worry, mother. I'll punish them severely. This won't happen again. At this point, everyone present understood the truth. The Grand Madam pondered, then said, Ayu lost his mother, it's pitiful enough. You must discipline Song properly. This mustn't happen again. Lisher quickly echoed, yes, mother. Song is only 5, still ignorant. It must have been the servants misleading him. As for sister-in-law, next time, you could simply speak to me directly. The Grand Madam nodded slowly, plainly wishing to smooth matters over. But I wasn't about to let her whitewash it. I said loudly, Grand Madam, Song's repeated bullying of Ayu stems from lack of discipline. It's tolerable within the family, but if word spreads outside, it will disgrace us all. And some items are not ordinary toys. Among them is a jade rui ornament bestowed by His Majesty upon my grandfather, which he in turn gave my sister. Even this imperial gift was taken. If that were known, the matter would become far more serious. At that, the entire Zhao household paled. An imperial gift? Li Shi's voice wavered. What imperial gift? You mustn't say such things recklessly. I replied, I knew you wouldn't dare admit it. Fortunately, I did not waste my afternoon. Hong Yuan, tell second madam where that jade ruby is now. Hong Yuan stepped forward crisply. This servant has investigated. All of Tsong's stolen items are hidden in a chest under his bida, at least 30 to 50 pieces. The jade ruby is among them. This girl had once served as a scout at Jiayu. Passing her here in the inner chambers was really beneath her. I turned to the grand madam. Mother, whether the item is there or not, you can send someone to check. The grand madam was thus forced onto the fire. Helpless, the old madam had no choice but to send her most trusted servant woman. I didn't want to give them any chance to hide things, so I told Hong Yuan, you go along as well. Hong Yuan answered loudly, yes. Not long after, a whole chest of toys was carried back. Li Shi could no longer argue. Her face looked utterly awful, as if she wished she could crawl into a hole. She had known all along that Song Ji-er bullied Yu Ji-er, but she hadn't expected it to be so excessive. This is all a misunderstanding. Elder sister-in-law, mother, this was all stirred up by those vile servants. I sighed and took out the little jade ruby. It had once been my favorite possession. I often played with it while stationed at Jiayuguan. Later, when my elder sister sent me clothes she had sewn by hand, I gave her this piece in return. She is gone, but the ruby remains. I presented it to the old madam, letting her see clearly the seal of the Imperial Household Department carved on it. When the jade ruby appeared, Li Shi was finally frightened out of her wits. Her face went deathly pale as she turned toward the old madam. Mother, this truly is a misunderstanding. Children's games shouldn't be taken seriously. I'll properly teach Song Ji-er when we return and have him apologize to Yu Ji-er. Elder sister-in-law, you are generous. Let's forget this matter. We are one family. Saying so, she even tried to kneel before me. I turned aside, avoiding the gesture, and looked only at the old madam and Zhao Yuhua. For things to reach this point, the old madam herself felt ashamed. With a long sigh, she said, in the end, it is my failure to manage the household strictly. I have wronged Yu Ji-er's mother. Seeing his mother speak thus, Zhao Yuhua only said to me, everything is already clear, why not let it go? We are all one family. One family? I had married into this house precisely because I feared that Song Ji-er and Yin Ji-er would face this kind of so-called family. This matter is too grave. I am but a woman and dare not decide on my own. I can only call for my natal family to come, and send a letter to my grandfather, to make the judgment clear. Now that I've caught them, if I don't wring every last drop of truth out of this, then I am not you, would you? Seeing that I was determined to escalate, all the Zhao family members' faces grew sour. I softly ordered Hong Yuan, ride fast to my family, bring father and mother here, and tell them it is a matter of urgency. Hong Yuan answered, yes. The old madam and Li Shi panicked, saying, there's no need. Truly no need. Li Shi, sweating profusely, pleaded, I will apologize to elder sister-in-law. Elder sister-in-law, do not be angry. Do not be angry. Zhao Yuhua fixed me with a hard stare, his words carrying veiled threat. You must know when to stop. Know when to stop? When Song Ji-er bullied Yu Ji-er, why did no one tell him to stop? I lifted my head slightly, my voice firm. Husband, I do not understand your meaning. But I know that an imperial gift is no trifling matter. Such things cannot be ignored. You serve in court, surely you know this truth far better than I, a mere woman. You like to preach grand principles? Is there a greater principle than that of heaven, earth, sovereign, and parents? You. Zhao Yuhua was livid. If today's matter spread, the Zhao family's face would be utterly lost. Just as Zhao Yuhua and I were at a deadlock, a frail but commanding voice rang from the hall, enough. All of you. The old patriarch slowly emerged. At once, everyone bent to pay respects. The old madam looked ashamed and sighed heavily, this is all my fault. Li Shi dropped to her knees, weeping, father-in-law, please decide for me. Song Ji-ear is still young. He truly didn't mean it. I will strictly discipline him from now on, never letting him err again. The old patriarch's gaze swept over everyone before finally settling on me. He said in a low, steady voice, "Eldest daughter-in-law, what do you want? Speak plainly." As expected of the old patriarch knew I wouldn't let this matter slide today. I bowed slightly and said softly, "After my sister passed away, my mother worried day and night. To keep her children from suffering, she married me into this house. Yunjier and Yujier are not only Zhao family's descendants, but also blood of the Yu clan. If my younger sister-in-law condones Song Ji-ear's behavior, does she not fear chilling the hearts of the Yu family?" Li Shi dared not argue any longer. She kept her head bowed low, not even breathing loudly. The old patriarch nodded. "How do you propose to resolve this?" It was time to state terms. I said coldly, "Song Ji-ear is precious, naturally. It is enough for younger sister-in-law to discipline him herself. But those servants, their crimes are inexcusable. I ask younger sister-in-law to hand over their deeds of sale, so that I may correct them by family law." Li Shi's head jerked up, her eyes full of disbelief and hatred. If she lost her trusted servants to me, she would become the laughingstock of the entire household. The old patriarch regarded me deeply and said, "Eldest daughter-in-law, this is too severe. It will harm your reputation." I replied calmly, "Reputation? We are behind closed doors, disciplining servants. Who will know? Only if it spreads will tongues wag. Since I have married into this house, I am part of the Zhao family. Honor shared, disgrace shared. Surely no one here would gossip behind my back." Seeing that I refused to relent, the old patriarch finally sighed, "Second daughter-in-law, hand over those people's deeds to your sister-in-law." "Father!" Li Shi cried in desperation. The old patriarch slammed the table, "You will hand them over. Otherwise, you unworthy, unvirtuous woman, I will have my son divorce you and send you back to your family." At the threat of being cast out, Li Shi trembled all over and dared not speak again. The old patriarch's face was thunderous as he declared, "This ends here. No one is to bring it up again. You all understand the rule, family shame must not be aired outside." His gaze fell on me at that last sentence. I pretended not to notice and joined the others in replying, "Yes." Thus the matter concluded. Li Shi had lost both face and advantage. Pale-faced, she handed me the box containing the servants' deeds, not daring to say another word though her eyes brimmed with resentment. I took the box unhurriedly, then leaned close to her ear and whispered, "I am not my sister. I do not tolerate sand in my eyes. This time is a small punishment, a warning. If you dare provoke me again, I will rip out your guts and hang them around Song Ji-ear's neck." Li Shi's head snapped up, her face dark with fear. I answered with a brazen, triumphant smile, making clear I wasn't joking. Victory in my first battle. I led my people back to my own courtyard, triumphant. Hong Yuan had already investigated everything clearly. At my side she reported, "This Sun woman is the worst. She was the one who incited Song Ji-ear to bully Yu Ji-ear. Chenya is neither good nor bad. But Xiu Shui is not a good one either." With just a few words she listed the faults of the servants. I said coldly, "Enough. Each of them will be beaten 30 strokes, then sold off to some bitterly cold place as slaves. I must kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. If I am not ruthless enough, it won't deter the rest." Hearing this, the servants began wailing for mercy, "Madam, spare us, madame, we were wronged." Their cries filled the courtyard. I waved my hand, "Take them away and beat them. Make sure the entire Zhao household can hear it." Hong Yuan rolled up her sleeves, "Xiao Hu and his men are the best at military flogging. I'll send them." Xiao Hu had once served with me at Jiayuguan, responsible for punishment in the raiding unit. If I let him handle it, these people might not survive. So I told her quietly, "Tell Xiao Hu to show restraint, leave them alive." For days I had avoided direct confrontation with Li Shi. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I wanted to establish my authority once and for all. At this time, Zhao Yuhua returned to my courtyard, face dark. I have words with you. The old patriarch must have kept him back, displeased that he could not control his wife. But if his father scolded him, what was that to me? I arched my brow and followed him into the main room. Would you? You've gone too far. Your sister was gentle and virtuous, how could she have such a younger sister as you? Zhao Yuhua scolded. If he hadn't mentioned my sister, I might not have been so angry. If my sister were still alive, and saw Yu Jier treated this way, she would have been harsher than I retorted furiously. Zhao Yuhua's expression turned cold. You are the principal wife of this household. How can you harbor such fierce temper? You've barely married in, yet you openly defy your husband and rebuke your elders. What will you not dare in the future? I shot back, and you dare reproach me? If you had taken responsibility and cared for your children, would this have happened? As a father, you failed first, yet you reflect not at all, and instead blame me for cleaning up your mess. Who gave you the face to speak so? Zhao Yuhua had never before been so defied. He spat my name in fury. Would you? I raised my voice. What? Let me tell you, Zhao Yue, out of respect for my sister, I have given you some face. But don't take an inch and demand a mile. Would you? Don't go looking for trouble, but if anyone dares tread on me, even if it's the king of heaven himself, I'll strike back all the same. Zhao Yuhua, enraged beyond measure, laughed bitterly. Good. Good. Very good. With our masks torn away, I had no more interest in pretending civility with him. She sneered with disdain. I'm perfectly fine, no need for you to tell me. Zhao Yuhua could no longer contain himself. He spat out, a vulgar woman, suit yourself, then flung his sleeves and left. After I made such a ruckus in the Marquis's household, the effect was remarkable. Originally, I was merely the second wife of the eldest branch, a young woman newly married in, and the people of the household all looked down on me to some extent. But after this incident, everyone knew I had both courage and wit, and that I was no soft persimmon. No one dared again to slight the eldest branch's 2 children. My grandfather had taught me, when you are not certain, you may temporarily endure, but if you find the right chance, you must strike a single blow that leaves no room for future trouble. Though I had made an enemy of Madame Li, she now knew I was not to be trifled with and would no longer dare provoke me. The Grand Madame and the old Marquis disliked my domineering manner, but since I had committed no real fault, they had no way to deal with me. Yunjier and Yu Jier did not witness me quarreling with the entire household, but after hearing the servants' accounts, they admired me greatly. Especially little Yu Jier, though still very young, he already knew who treated him kindly and who did not. Only Zhao Yuhua bore a grudge. He simply stopped coming to the main house for breakfast. Did he think I cared for him so much? Did he imagine he could control me in this way? I pretended not to notice, treating him as though he didn't exist. But the 2 children could not be like me. When Zhao Yuhua didn't come, their little heads kept turning, clearly missing him. Truly, blood ties run deep. Since he would not come, I would force him to. In those days when he did not appear at the main house, he naturally went to his concubines. So every day he failed to come, I made Madame Su and Madame Lu stand in my quarters for the entire day, until their legs and backs ached with exhaustion. When they were dismissed, I said lightly, you both know what you must tell the master, don't you? Of course they knew. The saying goes, when immortals fight, it's the imps who suffer. So no matter which concubine Zhao Yuhua visited, they kept refusing him or persuading him to reconcile with me. Zhao Yuhua fumed, crying that women and petty men are impossible to raise. In the end, he stopped returning to the inner residence at all and slept in his study every night. I could not directly move against him, but I could deal with the servants in his study. After half a month of harsh discipline, all the boys and attendants around him were punished thoroughly. At last, I don't know how he figured it out, but he returned to the main house for breakfast. The children were overjoyed to see him, and I also resumed my gentle manner. But once the children had left, I immediately set down my teacup with a gesture that clearly meant you may leave now. Zhao Yuhua regarded me coldly for a moment before saying, I truly don't know what kind of heart you have. I didn't even lift my eyelids, answering lazily, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea you couldn't possibly understand. He turned his back to me and said faintly, Yu Wu Jiao, that jade ruby. Is it really an imperial gift? My heart gave a sudden jump, but I replied slowly, my maternal grandfather received countless rewards from the emperor. Our family has many imperial gifts. Why would I need to lie? Zhao Yuhua gave a cold laugh, that is indeed an object crafted by the imperial household. But I knew your elder sister well. If it truly came from your grandfather, she would never so casually give it to Yu Ji'er to play with. Unless it was given to her by someone else. He left those words hanging in the air and walked away. I let out a long breath and took the jade ruby from the drawer, gently stroking it. It was warm, smooth, and lovely. Back in Jiayu Pass, I often played with it. At that time forget it. The past cannot be retrieved. Now I must look forward. Zhao Yuhua was sharper than I thought. All those years in office had not been in vain. As I pondered, Hong Yuan entered with a grave expression and whispered something in my ear. So that's how it is, I said. Hong Yuan, furious, asked, Miss, shall I seize her and interrogate her? I shook my head. Careful, you might break the porcelain trying to catch the mouse. For Yunjier's sake, we must act cautiously. A few days later, I called Yunjier over alone and asked, would you like to attend the Wang family's girls' school? The household of the Minister of Rights, the Wang family, had invited several highly esteemed women teachers to open a school for girls at home, admitting only daughters from closely allied noble families. I had deliberately gone to my natal family and sought this connection through my mother. Yunjier didn't really understand. She asked, Mother, what is schooling? Is it like the academy that my cousins go to? I smiled and explained, girls' school is a little different. You'll study books more suitable for women, and also music, painting, embroidery, and so on. More importantly, you'll learn to read and understand, and you'll make friends of your own age. It will only benefit you. Yunjier blushed and nodded, daughter is willing to go to school. I was overjoyed and arranged everything carefully. Before departure, I found an excuse to keep her nursemaid, Madame Zhai, behind. Yunjier was deeply attached to her, and when she saw her staying, she kept looking back several times before finally turning her head away. Only after the carriage had gone far did I say to Zhaisher, now that Jier has left, you should explain yourself. Zhaisher froze, then gave a fawning smile, Madam, what do you mean? Hong Yuan snapped harshly, still dare to play dumb? Seeing me staring at her coldly, Zhaisher finally realized something. Her eyes rolled, but she kept her neck stiff, speaking boldly, this servant does not understand Madam's meaning. Sitting at the head, I looked at her, her posture smug and unafraid, and felt deep disgust. You think your deed's hidden, that no one could notice? What did you say to Yunjier, that made her so cold to you, Jier? My elder sister entrusted Jier to you before she died, yet you dared betray that trust. Over these days, I had noticed Yunjier's indifference to you, Jier. After my clash with Madame Li, I once asked Yunjier, since Song Jier had bullied you Jier for so long, as his elder sister, why didn't she help him? If the two united, they would not have suffered so badly. Yunjier stammered, unable to answer. I knew then someone had poisoned her thoughts. And that someone turned out to be the nursemaid she trusted most, Zhaisher. Her face stiffened, but she recovered quickly, putting on a pitiful look, everything I've done is for Jier's good. I drew a deep breath. Some people will not repent until they see their coffin. Hong Yuan sneered, Zhaisher, wasn't it you who told Jier that her birth mother died because of you, Jier? That if not for him, Madame would still be alive? Such venomous words. If I hadn't planted someone to hide in Jier's room for days, we would never have known. Zhaisher's secret exposed, she panicked, shaking her head desperately, no, I never said such a thing. I can swear it. I stared at her and said slowly, I see your schemes clearly. After Madame died, you quarreled with Yu Jier's nursemaid, Songshir, so you sowed discord between the two children, making Yunjier acknowledge only you, he'd only you. And beyond such words, you told her things like, no one else cares for you sincerely, only I am true to you. I sneered, and why? Because of your worthless younger brother. You stole Yunjier's jewelry to pawn, and when Songshur found out, you panicked and resorted to such vile means. Bring him in. At my command, Luchi dragged in a disheveled, bruised man. Jaishur gasped, Bao Zhen. What happened to you? Her eyes flashed hatred as she cried, Madam, why seize my brother? He's innocent. Hong Yuan shouted, insolent. How dare you speak so to Madam? I waved a hand. This brother of yours indulges in drinking, gambling, and whoring, bullying men and women alike under the Marquis's name, his wicked deeds well known. If you were of no use, I would have flayed him long ago. The man, Bao Zhen, cried for help, elder sister. Save me. I had Luchi drag him away, then said to Jaishur, word by word, if it were only petty theft, I could tolerate you. But to sow discord between Yunjier and Yujier, that shows a twisted heart. I cannot keep you. Jaishur wiped her tears and raised her chin proudly, Madam, I was appointed by the former Madam to care for Jier. If you expel me, the Madam of the Yu family will not agree. Still daring to invoke my mother? Quite bold. I sneered, my mother long ago said everything would be as I decide. She gave me your deed of sale already. I can dispose of you as I please. If I hadn't received her explicit consent, I wouldn't bother meddling in this filth. Jaishur, unwilling to give up, stammered in panic, Madam, Jier has been with me since birth. She cannot do without me. If you drive me away, won't you fear she will hate you? Hong Yuan fumed, you're only a nursemaid. You think too highly of yourself. I knew exactly what Jaishur was trying, using Yunjier as leverage. The child was still young and didn't understand many things. I was not her birth mother, and if I forcibly dismissed Jaishur, Yunjier might indeed resent me. But precisely because of this, I could not keep her. I said coldly, today, when Yunjier returns from school, you will tell her, your brother has married and wants to take you to live in comfort, so I, out of kindness, am releasing you from service. Say you will return to visit her whenever possible. That is all. The rest is not your concern. Jaishur stared at me, silent. I said evenly, Jaishur, let me tell you, you have no other choice. If you say one wrong word later, your brother will lose one piece of flesh. Think carefully. How many cuts can a man like him survive? Jaishur screamed, struggling to hurl herself at me, but Hong Yuan restrained her with one hand. Still not learning until you see the coffin. Hong Yuan barked. I said coldly, release her. Let her think it through herself. For this, her cooperation is essential. Jaishur trembled, a trapped beast look in her eyes. I did not press, only watched her quietly. After about the time it takes an incense stick to burn, she finally collapsed to the floor like a punctured lantern, despair written on her face. I asked, have you thought it through? Jaishur whispered, this servant. This servant understands now. After I leave. Please, Madam, show mercy to young Lady Yun and treat her well. I sneered, Yunjier is my own niece. Of course I will treat her well. Do I need a treacherous servant like you to remind me? At this point, everything was almost settled. When Yunjier came back from her lessons, Jaishur's expression changed again and again, but in the end, she could not resist her love for her brother. Finally, she told Yunjier the story. Yunjier's face turned pale, and she wept, clinging to her, begging her not to leave. Hong Yuan stepped forward to comfort her, Miss, you don't understand. Mama Zhai is going to a better life now, to be reunited with her younger brother and sister-in-law. If you don't let her go, then she'll be left with no one in her old age. Won't that be even more pitiful? Yunjier, tearful, asked, Mama, is this true? Didn't you say you would never leave me? Jaishur's heart ached terribly. These past years, her pilfering was real, but her affection for Yunjier was also genuine. Life in the Bo household was so comfortable that she would rather die than be cast out. But her brother was her darling, and she dared not disobey me. Finally, she clenched her teeth and said, "What Miss Han Yuan says is true. This servant is going to enjoy blessings. Miss mustn't worry for me." Han Yuan added, "Mama will surely come back to visit Miss whenever she has the time. Miss, you can rest assured." Jaisher gave a stiff nod, hugged Yunjie tightly, and said with tears, "Miss, you must listen to Madam from now on and live your days well. Mama is leaving now." After Mama Jai left, Yunjie cried herself hoarse. Even in her sleep, tear stains marked her cheeks. I left the gentlest, most considerate maid, Yao Huang, by her side to comfort her. Back then, when my elder sister fell ill and passed away, Mama Jai was the only one who stayed beside Yunjie. A child who had suddenly lost her mother, and now again lost her beloved nursiate was no small blow. But I believed she would pull through. Yunjie was no longer alone. She had me, she had Yu Ji, she had Zhao Yuhua, and she had her classmates and teachers at the academy. In the future, her world would grow bigger and bigger, and she would slowly forget this scheming old servant. In the following days, Yunjie was full of sorrow. I told her, "Mother understands how you feel about Mama Jai. But all banquets must come to an end. Mama Jai is going to live a good life now, you should be happy for her." Yunjie, her eyes red, said, "Mother, after Mama died, Mama Jai said I only had her left. Now she doesn't want me either." A dull ache rose in my chest. I closed my eyes briefly, then softly said, "How could you only have her? You still have me, you have your father, your grandparents, your maternal grandparents, and Yu Ji. We are your true family, the ones who love you most." I held her shoulders and encouraged her, "Yunjie, your great-grandfather is a great general, a hero who defends the country. You are also a tiger's daughter, born of a military family. Mother believes in you, no matter the hardship, you can endure it." Yunjie raised her head to look at me. Determination slowly appeared in her eyes. She nodded firmly, "Mother, your daughter understands." Yunjie would gradually grow stronger. I wanted to teach her not only about loss, but also about resilience. Soon enough, she recovered. Even her attitude toward Yu Ji finally began to change. During this time, I often guided her, telling her about the importance of siblings, and earnestly clarifying her mother's death had nothing to do with Yu Ji. That was the truth. It wasn't only me saying this. Yao Huang said it, her teachers said it. Slowly, Yunjie shed her suspicion toward Yu Ji. The siblings began to grow close, like true brother and sister. Dealing with Mama Jai wasn't exactly a secret. I could hide it from children like Yunjie and Yu Ji, but not from others in the Bo household. To the Dowager Lady and Madam Li, my only reliance was the Yu family. And by dismissing an old servant my sister left behind so ruthlessly, they thought my maiden family might take issue with me. But my mother not only didn't object, after seeing the change in the children, she was so moved she held me, crying her heart out. Then, with a great wave of her hand, she spent a fortune to gift me a horse ranch in the suburbs of the capital. Mother wanted to thank me, to affirm what I had done. Those in the Bo household who had been waiting to see me stumble were finally left crestfallen and gave up. I was deeply moved. My mother, though she hadn't raised me, understood me so well. Before, when I had burdens on my mind, I didn't feel too suffocated in the Bo household. But once the children's troubles were resolved, I found life more stifling than ever. 10 years. How many tens of years does a person get in a lifetime? I longed for the winds of Jiayu Pass, the sands of Jiayu Pass, and the free self who once galloped across them. I had always lived wild, I could not stand being confined. My mother's gift of the ranch was exactly what my heart craved. Looking at the wide, open grounds, I felt exhilarated. The horses I'd brought from Jiayu Pass hadn't stretched their legs in so long that they'd grown fat. I galloped all day, not a bit tired, but instead radiant with spirit. This was how life was meant to be lived. After that, I spent every day at the ranch, sometimes even bringing Yunjie and Yu Ji, finding them ponies to ride for fun. By rights, as the heir's wife, I shouldn't have been leaving the house so often. But the dowager lady didn't interfere, and Madame Li didn't dare provoke me. I simply said I was managing the ranch, no one could object. During this time, Zhao Yuhua also changed greatly. He realized I had no affection for him, yet seemed to grow accustomed to being around me. He came to the main chambers more and more, sometimes even hinting he wanted to stay the night. I had said almost every cruel word possible to him, yet I still couldn't understand why he felt anything for me. But after rejecting him many times, I worried it might affect the children. After all, Zhao Yuhua was their father. I had brought 4 trusted subordinates from Jiayu Pass: Hong Yuan, Lu Qi, Yao Huang, and Zixin. Hong Yuan excelled in intelligence gathering, Lu Qi was skilled in interrogation, Yao Huang was empathetic and perceptive, and Zixin cold-blooded, merciless, with countless lives on her hands. In matters like this, it seemed I could only consult with Yao Huang. She smiled gently and said, "From what I observe, master-in-law is a man of great pride. The more you treat him with indifference, the more it stirs his desire to conquer. Men are just that shallow." I rubbed my forehead. "Is there any way to make him back off?" Yao Huang thought for a moment, then said, "The stronger a man's pride, the more he fears rejection. Just stay distant, cold. He'll eventually understand." I could only hope so. In the days that followed, I became ever colder to Zhao Yuhua, spending nearly all my time at the ranch to avoid him. But instead of retreating, he became even more persistent, constantly flattering me, showering me with gifts, even coming to pick me up from the ranch. The servants of the Bo household began spreading word that I was virtuous and devoted, winning over the children my sister left behind, and at last moved the heir's heart. Even my own mother heard the rumors and said, "Actually, your brother-in-law isn't a bad man. He's both learned and skilled, with a bright future. If you could think it through and live with him in harmony, I would be at peace." What nonsense. This was all his wishful thinking. I was so harassed by Zhao Yuhua that I grew sick of it. One day at the ranch, I was just contemplating giving him a beating when suddenly, from a distance, a figure rode toward me. His form was so familiar. The closer he came, the more stunned I was. It was an old friend. As soon as he saw me, he smiled brightly. "Xiao Wu, long time no see." "Aze," I whispered. Since parting at Jiayu Pass, it had been nearly 2 years. Aze was still as refined and handsome as ever. He easily drew his horse alongside mine, gazing deeply at me while reproachfully saying, "You've been back in the capital so long, yet never thought to come see me?" Of course, I knew where he lived. But what use was saying that? I only replied, "With my current position, it isn't convenient for me to contact you." Aze suddenly reined in, sighed, and asked, "Are you not doing well now?" I looked into the distance. "Very well. The children are growing strong. No one in the Bo household dares to cross me. As long as I rid myself of Zhao Yuhua's foolish infatuation, all will be fine." Aze lowered his head, saying softly, "If you feel well, then I'm at ease." Silently, I sighed. That day, we rode together for a long while, just like in the past, until my horse began to protest. Only then did I take it back for water and fodder. Before leaving, Aze said quietly, "Xiao Wu, if I want to see you in the future, may I still come here?" I answered calmly, "The ranch is open for business. Naturally you may come. Just as today, please come in plain clothes." Aze showed a genuine smile. "Xiao Wu, today I was truly happy." On the way back, my emotions were in turmoil. Memories of my carefree days with Aze at Jiayu Pass rose up, and suddenly, I felt like crying. Because I knew those days were gone forever. When I returned home, Zhao Yuhua was waiting in my chambers, his face dark as if someone owed him a fortune. "Something the matter?" I asked wearily. Slowly lifting his head, he stared into my eyes. "Who were you with today?" His tone was accusatory, which made me loathe it. I looked at him steadily and replied, "Who I was with, what does that have to do with you?" Veins bulged on his forehead. He roared, "Today I deliberately took a detour to fetch you, yet I saw you with a young man. Shameless! You Wu Jin, you are my wife, yet you've never once smiled at me like that." So he had seen me with Aze. But since he hadn't recognized Aze, his reaction wasn't worse than this. I sneered at Zhao Yuhua's outrage. "I married you, I didn't sell myself to you. What right do you have to shout at me? If this were before, I would have knocked out a few of your teeth." He suddenly stood up, strode forward, and seized my wrist tightly. "You refuse to share a bed with me, keeping me 1,000 miles away. Is it because there's another man in your heart?" His closeness made me uncomfortable. "Let go," I said coldly. Zhao Yuhua glared at me, his grip firm. "I won't. Not unless you give me a clear answer." A surge of nameless fury rose within me. I wrenched my arm free with force and shouted, "Don't you lay a hand on me." I flung off Zhao Yuhua's grasp. His eyes grew darker with resentment. Stepping closer, he said, "Would you, since you've married me, you should act as a real wife, bear me children, stay with me for life." Was he trying to force himself on me? Because of the commotion, Hong Yuan and Lu Qi immediately rushed in, watching him warily, ready to strike. "Out!" Zhao Yuhua roared. I gestured for them to leave. They exchanged a glance, realizing I wasn't likely to suffer at his hands, and slowly withdrew. Zhao Yuhua, however, mistook this for compliance. He shoved me against the wall and, with feigned tenderness, said, "You're still young, you don't understand what it means to be husband and wife. From now on, I'll treat you well." Before he could finish, I finally lost patience. In a flash, my palm lashed out. He had been too close to dodge. Instinctively, he raised an arm to deflect, absorbing part of the blow, but my strike still landed squarely on his chest. "You." A heartbeat later, he spat out blood. Clutching his chest, Zhao Yuhua stared at me in shock. "You actually know martial arts?" I looked at him calmly, pressing my lips together before saying, "I grew up at Jiayu Pass. What's strange about me knowing a bit of fighting?" No sooner had I spoken than he coughed again and vomited another mouthful of blood. In my anger, I hadn't held back enough. Clearing my throat with a trace of guilt, I said, "It's only internal injury. Nothing serious." Zhao Yuhua gave a bitter laugh. "You would you, the more I look, the less I recognize you. I've trained since the age of 10, I can tell your skill isn't weak. You. What else are you hiding from me? I am your husband." "Trained since 10? I sneered. "That counts as training?" "At best, a flowery display. Real martial skill has only one purpose: killing. It can only be honed on the battlefield." He was stunned into silence, then whispered, "I always suspected you looked down on me. And it turns out, you really do." Since we'd come this far, I saw no reason to keep hiding. "My grandfather always said you court officials of the capital are nothing but gluttons for pleasure, occupying posts without doing real work. Don't take offense, I included my father as well. He despised all civil officials without distinction. I was raised under his roof and naturally took his words as law. So from the beginning, when everyone praised Zhao Yuhua as both scholarly and martial, handsome and a fine husband to me, it was all nonsense. A civil official is exactly what I despise most. As for martial skill, he can't even compare to me, let alone Hong, Lu, Yao, or Zi." I fixed my gaze on Zhao Yuhua and said bluntly, "I am not suited for this household, and even less for being a good wife. The only reason I married here was for the 2 children. I made a 10-year pact with my mother. After 10 years, I will return to Jiayu Pass." Zhao Yuhua's shock deepened. For a long time, he couldn't speak. You treat my Jinyang Bo manor like some men? Come and go as you please?" His lips were bloodied, his voice raw with hurt. I sneered, "If you had properly cared for Yu Jier and Yunjier, why would I waste 10 precious years of my life here? You think I want to rot away in this place? Since everything is clear now, cooperate with Remarries the children well." When I leave, I'll still remember your kindness. Slowly, Zhao Yuhua lifted his head. His eyes glinted with chilling hostility. What if I refuse? You are my wife. If I forbid you, you cannot leave. I gave him a cold glance. These legs are mine. If I want to leave, I will. If you agree to divorce, all the better. If not, what can you do to stop me? Even if you gathered the whole matter, they wouldn't withstand 2 strikes each from Hong, Lu, Yao, and Zi. His fists clenched tight. He glared at me with bitter, unwilling eyes, saying nothing. Not wanting to push him into desperation, I softened my tone. 10 years from now, the children will no longer need a mother. You can have your delicate wives and concubines, enjoy wealth and honor. Brother-in-law, I dislike the capital. If you have any feeling for me at all, don't block my path. After he left, I sent someone with medicine for his injuries. I feared his pride would keep him from seeking treatment, and if he worsened, it would only become my burden. Yet the injury was no small matter. Stayed behind closed doors for days, worrying even the children. Han Yuan scoffed, people in the capital truly are fragile. Lu Qi added, back at Jiayu Pass, even with your guts spilling out, you stuff them back and keep fighting. Even Zxian, usually the quietest, muttered, useless. Only Yao Huang sighed, the master is hurt in the heart, not the body. When will you 3 ever understand? I couldn't help but smile. Clearly, not only I but even my people were ill-suited for the capital. I left Zhao Yuhua alone, letting him come to terms at his own pace, while I kept riding at the stables every day. Ace came by every few days. We never spoke of love, only rode and chatted. Yet fearing to provoke Zhao Yuhua again, I told him, you'd best come less often these days. Ace forced a smile. But... did your husband's family say something? I sighed. My husband. He saw us together last time. You know how messy the inner court can be. Ace lowered his head. After a long pause, he said softly, very well. As I walked past him, I caught the faint murmur, we can't go back to the past, can we? I shut my eyes briefly and whispered, no. We can't. At that moment, I noticed Zhao Yuhua, pale as death, standing in the corner. Who knew how long he had been watching? When his gaze landed on Ace's face, his composure finally shattered. Your servant greets. His Highness the Crown Prince. On the carriage ride back, Zhao Yuhua could no longer contain himself. I wanted to talk to you sincerely. But that man has the Crown Prince. You owe me an explanation. His eyes were bloodshot, his face dark with obsession. If I kept silent, he might think the worst. So I sighed and said, there's nothing unspeakable. Truly, nothing. The matter began 15 years ago. I told him of how my father, posted near Jiayu Pass, left me with my grandfather when I was a toddler. How I grew up as a boy among my 4 cousins, called Little Fifth. By 12, I was already fighting in battles. At 13, Ace had been sent to Jiayu Pass for training, his identity known only to my grandfather and uncle. My 4th brother, unwilling to babysit him, shoved him onto me. From then on, Ace and I became inseparable, hunting, riding, even small missions together. Until one mission went awry, and we were ambushed by an enemy force far stronger than expected. I even took a sword meant for him. His scar still remains. In that moment of despair, Ace clung to me in tears, vowing never to abandon me, to share wealth and hardship together. I only laughed, telling him, what's the big deal? Soldiers fight on even with their guts hanging out. We survived only because reinforcements arrived. That was when I learned his true identity, and he learned mine, that I was not my grandfather's grandson, but his granddaughter. Zhao Yuhua listened silently, unmoving as stone, until I spoke of this. Then he rasped, that jade Rui. I nodded. Yes. The Crown Prince gave it to me. But between us, there was never anything shameful. Only the joy of youth. When he left, he asked if I'd marry him as his princess. I thought all night, then refused. Not because I felt unworthy. Grandfather always said I was the finest girl under heaven. But because I knew I could never be a crown princess, let alone an empress. So I passed the ruby on to my sister. It was my way of severing the past. Zhao Yuhua's lips curled into a bitter smile. Then why did you return? If even the position of crown princess could not keep you, how could I, Zhao Yuhua, deserve you? I shrugged lightly. My sister's illness brought me back. At her funeral, I realized my parents had only me left. So I stayed. Everything after that was fate. For a long while, he sat in stunned silence. At last, I said gently but firmly, no matter what, I will return to Jiayu Pass. That is my home. For now, I remain only to repay my parents' kindness. Sisterhood is not for you. It never was. Zhao Yuhua let out a long sigh and suddenly smashed his fist against the carriage. Bang! Blood immediately flowed from his knuckles. No matter what past you carry, you are now a woman of the Zhao family. You may owe your parents, but I owe you nothing. So what am I supposed to do? Zhao Yuhua roared. I closed my eyes, weary. He shook my shoulders, his gaze burning hot. Can you not place your heart on me? I will take you back to Jiaguan to visit your kin. I will pay respects to your grandfather. Whatever happens, you are a woman, you must marry someone. I pushed him away and said firmly, who said I'll never marry again? Jiaguan has countless fine men. I won't be lacking in suitors. Time flew by. By the time Yunjia turned 8 and Yuji turned 5, Yuji had already entered school. He attended the Zhao family's clan school. Everyone knew that I, Yu Wuju, was fiercely protective. Even Song Ji, who had dominated the schoolyard for 2 years, didn't dare trouble Yuji. Every day, Yuji strutted proudly into the school, then scampered back after class to trail behind me, recounting all the trivial matters of the day. Meanwhile, Yunjia grew ever more like a young lady. Her resemblance to my late elder sister became sharper both in looks and in temperament, gentle, gracious, and understanding. But I did not want her to be too sensible. Sensibility only benefits a husband's family, just as Zhao Yuhua had once done to my sister, demanding endlessly, treating himself like a master to be served. True happiness comes from following one's own heart. So, beyond teaching Yunjia proper manners, I would occasionally give her small troubles to deal with, watching how she handled them. No matter what she chose, I would review it with her, teaching her how to maximize her advantage. Yunjia almost regarded me as her real mother. Once, she teased me with a smile, "Mother, did you gain these skills by practicing on father?" I didn't get angry. I replied, "Your father? He's not even worth me raising a hand." After 2 years, both children relied on me more and more, especially Yuji. He gradually shed his timidity and even grew mischievous at times. I always believed boys should be allowed mischief as long as they could endure my discipline. Mischief was also a choice. But lately, he had been misbehaving differently. Whenever I punished him, he'd run off yelling, "Master said, a small rod chastises, a great rod drives away. Your son is not unfilial, your son is obeying the words of the sages." What nonsense of a sage! During these 2 years, Zhao Yuhua had matured considerably. His feelings for me grew ever more restrained. He no longer begged me to stay, instead, he quietly tried to prove himself worthy. A bit like boiling a frog in warm water. He treated me exceedingly well, so well that in the capital, he had even earned a reputation as a wife-doting maniac. But he still didn't understand me. I had once loved Ace. He had promised me the position of crown princess, and I had still refused him. I would never stay behind for the sake of a mere man. Men only slow down the speed at which I can draw my blade. So time passed, and another new year approached me, third in the Jinyang Marquis estate. The capital was lively as ever. Yet amid the festivities, I smelled the restlessness of human hearts. My mother even came to warn me, "Your father says His Majesty's health is failing. Several princes are itching for action. The other day, the third prince born of consort Li was scolded harshly. They say he'll be sent back to his fief after the new year. I understood immediately. This was the calm before the storm of intrigue. At breakfast, I told Zhao Yuhua, the third prince will never obediently return to his fief. If I were him, I'd stir up trouble during the new year. My grandfather had long analyzed the princes with me. Ace, the crown prince, was deeply favored by his majesty. Yet, having lost his mother early, the other princes were always resentful. Zhao Yuhua grew solemn. Don't worry. I serve in the Ministry of Justice, and have little entanglement with them. Here at home, we'll add patrols these days. Even if trouble arises, our family won't be in danger. I sighed quietly. The Marquis' estate might be safe, but what of the common folk? On New Year's Eve, the whole family gathered for the vigil. Suddenly, chaos erupted outside. Armed men were passing through the streets, while opportunistic bandits looted in the confusion. Thanks to prior precautions, Zhao Yuhua and his brothers had already organized defenses, with guards stationed throughout the estate. The Dowager Marchioness was frail. The noise frightened her into trembling, chanting Ba and crying, such sin, such sin. I reassured her, the third prince's men will storm the palace. They won't target noble estates. These outside are mere rabble taking advantage of chaos, not worth fearing. The old lady nodded in relief. That's good. That's good. Leisure, usually cautious with me, muttered under her breath, likely from fright, you speak as if it's true. I set down my teacup and suddenly stood. She jumped. What are you doing? I was just speaking casually. I sneered. When the country is in peril, every person has responsibility. I'll go see for myself. Taking Hong Yuan with me, I went outside. At the main gate, at least 200 or 300 men had gathered, torches blazing, weapons raised, shouting insults. It's their families, Madam Heartless and Greedy. She lends money at ruinous rates, sucking the people dry. Brothers, storm inside. All that gold and silver will be ours. Others cursed crudely. The mob was clearly mostly bandits. Faces around me darkened. Leisure had indeed been running usury these past 2 years, angering many. The second Zhao brother cried in panic, what do? We don't have enough men in the estate. If they break through, we're finished. The third brother added, we should flee. Better than waiting here to die. But Zhao Yuhua remained calm, no. There are men at the back gates too. If we leave, it'll be even more dangerous. At least the estate walls give us cover. They argued back and forth, helpless. In great disorder, smaller troubles always break out. Tonight, the city patrols would be overwhelmed, and noble households had to rely on their own strength. I clenched my fist and returned to the courtyard. Summoning my men, I called forth the 30 veterans I had brought from Jiaguan. Each was battle-hardened, each had slain countless foes. I ordered them into light armor, weapons in hand. Come. It's our turn. When we reached the front gate, Zhao Yuhua saw me clad in battle gear and gasped, what are you doing? I brushed past him and gave orders, divide the household into 2 groups. One guards the main hall with the dowager, the old marquis, and the children. The rest secure the side and rear gates. Zhao Yuhua grew anxious. What are you doing, would you? This is no time for games. My voice was cold, you are the ones playing games. The enemy is already outside the gate. Do you have a plan? If they break through, will you simply lay yourselves down like fish on a chopping board? Useless bookmen, the lot of you. I shouted, clear the way. Open the gates, lure them in and slaughter them inside. No. You mustn't. Zhao Yuhua's brothers went pale. We should wait for the patrols. Better than rushing to die now. I shoved them aside, picking at my ear lazily. Enough. Don't waste my time. Go back to the main hall. Not wishing to argue further, I had Hong Yuan escort them back. Inside, Leisure sobbed, you act recklessly. Don't drag us down with you. The dowager groaned, what misfortune, what misfortune. Only Yunjia and Yuji cried out, mother will surely win. Their faith made me smile faintly. My blood surged, battle lust awakened. I had not felt this way in years. Gripping twin sabers, I roared, open the gate. The doors creaked wide. Firelight flickered outside. The mob surged forward greedily. They've opened the gates. They're afraid. Brothers, gold and silver await us. I drew a deep breath, my voice like ice, none who enter tonight will live. My warriors bellowed as one, kill. The sound cracked like thunder, shaking the night. The 200 or 300 rabble were no match for veterans steeped in real war. Before I even struck, Zixin shot forward like lightning, blade flashing. 5 or 6 men fell in an instant. Blood sprayed. Screams filled the air. In moments, the courtyard became a hell of carnage. The leader of the mob charged inside at first. They thought we had given up on resistance, their faces still plastered with greedy, covetous smiles. But in the blink of an eye bodies were already falling, severed and scattered. Panic spread instantly. Pitiful fools, they had no idea what terrifying opponents they were facing. Hong Yuan and Lu Qi struck almost simultaneously. One shouted, this time the one who kills the most will definitely be me. The other yelled, my blade hasn't tasted blood in far too long. Inside the main hall of the Bow Manor, silence reigned. Those who had been shouting and panicking a moment ago now stood dumbstruck. I couldn't afford to freeze if I hesitated, they would take all the kills. I rushed forward at once. The 300 men outside were like straw dummies. Our 30 fighters swarmed upon them, and within less than the time it takes to burn one stick of incense, we slaughtered them all clean. The last few survivors, seeing us like gods of death, nearly wet themselves. They turned and ran, wailing. I immediately ordered the servant at the gate, shut the doors. Don't let them escape. Since they dared to enter, don't think they can leave. The few left shook like leaves, dropping to their knees, begging for their lives. We were wrong. We were tricked. We'll never dare again, please spare us. Zixin sneered, spare the talk. Just kill them. Lu Qi countered, now must leave one alive, to find out who sent them. A cold glint flashed in Zixin's eyes. With a swift slash, she cut down all but one. One survivor was enough. I had the corpses piled neatly at the manor gates as a warning. The Lady Dowager and the others didn't dare look. When we had first hacked down the mob outside, blood spraying and limbs flying, Li Shi had already vomited bile. Zhao Yuhua looked at me in silence. At last, he murmured, so. This is the real you? I had a horse brought. With one leap, I mounted and declared, I must see the situation outside. Zhao Yuhua seized my reins with both hands. You cannot. Inside the manor we are safe, but outside it's too dangerous. Don't go. I looked into the distance, resolute, the manor is safe, but out there countless others are suffering. Look, the palace itself is aflame. I believe in A's. He would never fight unprepared. His Majesty is wise, I need not meddle there. But I must deal with these looters and opportunists, lest innocent commoners fall victim to this struggle for the throne. Move. We ride out to kill. That night, the capital knew no sleep. First, I led my people to the Yu family estate. My father, a wily old fox, had made more enemies than most. As expected, their gates were under siege. Servants and guards lay dead or dying. Seeing me arrive, father's spirits soared, and he bellowed encouragement. I charged first, cleaving half the head off their leader. As the saying goes, shoot the horse before the rider, seize the king before the bandits. The mob, suddenly leaderless, fell into chaos. My fighters swarmed them, cutting them down to the last. Afterward, I roamed street by street. Whenever I saw looting or opportunists, my blade fell without hesitation. By dawn, my twin sabers had drunk an ocean of blood. Along the way, I joined forces with the vice commander of the Imperial Guards. Moved by my aid, he split his forces with mine, and together we saved countless innocents. By sunrise, it was over. The third prince was confined, his mother the noble consort forced to drink poison, and every rebel general captured. When I returned to the Bow Manor, drenched in blood, none dared to breathe too loudly. Only Zhao Yuhua and the two children rushed forward, asking if I was wounded. Once they saw the blood wasn't mine, they finally relaxed. Li Shi and the other sisters-in-law passed by in silence, not daring to meet my eye. The lady dowager flinched just looking at me. Truly ridiculous. I'd saved their lives, yet this was how they treated me? Soon after, the emperor bestowed rewards. The vice commander reported my deeds to court. My father maneuvered things so the credit was granted to Zhao Yuhua instead. Startled, Zhao Yuhua asked me, "Why would you do this?" I replied, "Didn't you once say you owed me nothing? Well now, I've made sure you do owe me." He fell into stunned silence. Only after a long pause did he whisper, "The deed of separation. I'll write it." Extra 8 years later I sent Yunjier off in her wedding sedan. She turned to me gratefully, "Mother, I will live a good life, and never waste your teachings. Now you may go chase what you've always longed for." Such a thoughtful child. I nodded. As I packed, Yuji came bounding in, insisting I take him with me. Impossible. His father was heir to the Bow title, he, the eldest son, had a title to inherit. How could he just leave? But he would not relent crying, rolling about, begging, "Mother, please. Take me with you. I'll do anything. I want to see Jiuquan pass too." By then, streaks of white had appeared at Zhao Yuhua's temples. He told our son, "You may go but only if you pass the county-level exam." Overjoyed, Yuji shouted, "I will pass for sure." After he left, I muttered, as if that boy couldn't pass if heaven wrote the answers for him. Zhao Yuhua only smiled faintly, a delaying tactic. I challenged him, "And if he really does pass?" "Then let him go with you," Zhao Yuhua replied. "A few years of tempering may shape him into something worthwhile." I frowned. "I'm going back to my homeland. Why would I drag along a 7-foot-tall son? What nonsense. I suspect you're plotting something." Over the years, he too had borne much. I told him, "Once I leave, you should remarry. Find a second wife." He only smiled quietly, "That need not trouble you. Just remember, if you ever wish to return, the doors will always be open. Brother-in-law, don't wait for me. I will not come back." After bidding farewell to my parents, I set out. Wiener, if we meet again, I cannot know. Jiao, you pass, here I come.